This is my Honda Civic and it's slowly becoming more and more of a money pit. But that doesn't mean that there isn't one thing that I wanted to change on the car. And that's these drum brakes. So over the past few months, I've been actually collecting a lot of parts from different cars to get all of this. So there is a bunch of combos that you can do using a bunch of different forums. But I decided that getting 97 Integra spindles, brakes, and the whole arm assembly was probably the easiest way of going about doing it, which I got for a mere $300 just for the 97 Integra parts. And then after that, I got 2 rear calipers from an EP3 for 60 bucks off a dude on Facebook. And that came from a 2005 Honda Civic SI. And the only reason we even got this is for the caliper brackets, which we can use to mount up the Integra disc calipers while still using the same pads, but we get to use a bigger rotor, which I believe is a 10.3-inch rotor, which gives us a bigger surface. And then finally, off of a 2000 Honda Civic EX, I got the 2 front spindles, which also came with the hub. And this came out to a whopping $180 from the junkyard. And that's where I got because I feel like I got paid a little too much, only because on the website they listed it as costing 40 bucks for the spindles. And then come to find out, they actually charge you for the hub as well, and you can't remove the hub there without a press, so we kind of got there. But anyways, it's time to start taking these apart so that way I can get them cleaned up and start putting on our new parts as well. First, I'm going to start with the EP3 brackets, since all it is just removing the caliper and then cleaning it up with a wire brush. Now onto the front end, I'm going to start by removing the caliper and the bracket from the Integra spindle. All I'm going to need is a 10mm for the hose bracket, a 12 for the caliper, and then just remove the 2 brake pads. Then finally a 17 for the bracket. And same like the EP3 brackets, I'm going to go ahead and clean this and get new clips and boots. And now finally, the rear Integra spindle. So with the rear trailing arms, you can actually use DC Integra trailing arms onto the EK Civic. If you use the DA ones, apparently that changes like your track width or something. I'm also gonna do extended studs, which you have to basically take apart all of this right here. I'm also gonna get a spoon trailing arm bushing, which goes right here. And then I'm also gonna get the rear compensator arm. For the parking brake situation, I am gonna use the Integra one, since you can either run the Integra or the Civic SI ones, but since this already comes with the Integra one, I'm gonna go ahead and use that. So first I'm gonna start by taking off something that I do know how to take off, which is the brake setup. So first I'm gonna start with the brake lines and then move my way over to the e-brake setup. To remove the parking brake cable, all I'm gonna do is remove this clip here and then remove this other clip holding it in. And then it just slides right out. Now onto the caliper with the same 12mm socket. Alright. These calipers on the rear don't seem as bad as the front. The rust is still there, but hopefully I should be able to get new pistons and then just rebuild them with new seals. The rest of it though, the back, like the spring, I don't think I'm gonna need a new one because it looks pretty good to me. Now onto the caliper bracket, which is just 2 14mm, and then this bracket for the ABS sensor, which I won't be needing since my car doesn't have ABS. Well, that one was way easier than the front ones. And look how tiny the pads are, holy crap. These things are freaking teeny weeny. What in the world? This is actually the smallest brake pad I've ever seen. Holy crap. Hey, but they're gonna do, I bet you they're gonna feel like really good in comparison to every other car I have. And I'm also gonna take off the rotor since I'm gonna have a new one later on. And I'm also gonna get the other rear arm prepared. I'm also gonna go ahead and remove these arms since I'm gonna be replacing them and or using the same one that I already have installed on the car. And since I don't like to work on dirty things, I went ahead and gave these arms a pressure wash as well. Now that we have majority of the pieces off, it's time to start cleaning the arms up. I'm first gonna start with the front spindle, and first I'm gonna wire wheel it, and then I'm gonna start cleaning it. And for the rear, instead of sanding down the whole arm, I'm just gonna sand down the pieces that have rust on them because for the most part, this arm is in pretty decent shape and I don't have enough time to sand down everything. So let's get started on it. And to get the rear cleaned up real nice, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the hub and shield and then later on install the new components. And on the spindle itself, I'm gonna go ahead and grind and paint it as well. So I went ahead and fitted back on the brake shield, so that way I could try to fit on the EP3 bracket for the rear. But as you can see, it does not fit. But with the small amount of modification to the shield, I was able to finally get the EP3 bracket to just slide on, meaning that now we can move on to actually starting to put on our new parts. So now that the arms are now painted and basically ready for new parts, it's time to build a press. So I went and bought one at Harbor Freight and I built it, and now it's time to put on these polyurethane compensator bushings. First things first. Now really all I have to do is press it out and slide on our new bushings. Yo, I don't think I'm on. What the fuck, bruh? Fucking dumbass, bro. Oh my god. Oh! With it now out, I went ahead and cleaned the arm with green Scotch-Brite and then lubricated both the bushings and the arm and inserted it by hand. Now it's time to replace our old rear hub with our new one. I also got extended ARP studs, and just make sure if you're doing this at home to measure out the diameter between the new stud and the one that you're gonna be replacing, just making sure that they're the same. To get the old ones out, all I'm gonna do is just bang on the studs and get them out. Which was true until I discovered that I could actually do it with the press as well. And to install the stud, I'm gonna go ahead and use the press with the long socket that's big enough to fit the stud. And with the rear hub now complete, it's time to move on to the front, which is the same procedure of pressing out the studs and then pressing in the new ones. And finally, for the front spindles, it's time to finally press it out, so that way we can fully paint it and install our new hub and ball joint. I'm also gonna remove the ball joints while I'm at it, since I got new ones from Honed, and all that involves is removing the boot and then pressing or hammering out the ball joint. With the ball joint removed, I'm gonna go ahead and paint these as well to match the rear. And that's to remove the final piece off the front spindles, which is the wheel bearing. And all that involves is just pressing it out with the press. To install the new Honed ball joint, all I need to do is remove the boot and then just press it in. With the large enough socket, I can then go ahead and install the sleeve using my hammer and reinstall the boot as well, meaning that the ball joint is now complete and we can move on to the next step. So now that the ball joints are in, all that's left to do is pressing in the hub, and I put both of these in the freezer, so hopefully that helps with pushing it in. And as soon as I'm feeling resistance and I notice that I can fit the snap ring on, that means that I'm finished with this part. Now I can put on our snap ring, and then all that's left to do is to put on our hub that we assembled earlier. This is gonna be annoying, I can already tell. Fuck. Oh my. Bro.
Maybe it's a skill issue, dude.
But I eventually did get it in, and all I had to do was install the hub. Now onto the trailing arm bushing, which I'm gonna be replacing with the spoon one. And the way I'm gonna go about doing this is hammering it out with the hammer. Since I don't have a socket big enough to fit it onto the press, hopefully it should go maybe smooth, I don't know. Actually, probably not, honestly. But I guess we'll see. There you go. As you can see, this bushing was pretty worn out, and mine is probably the same way on the Civic, the current one that I have. But once I put it back on, I'm gonna do something that's called clocking the bushing, which basically involves just rotating the bushing enough to be no longer in tension since the car is lowered. But before doing that, I cleaned the surface with some Scotch-Brite and some brake clean just to help remove any leftover grime. And to protect the edge a little bit, I'm gonna wrap electrical tape around it just to protect it while I'm hammering it. In the end, this is how it ended up coming out. I got it basically flush with the arm, and I got it angled a little bit clockwise. I don't know how many millimeters, but it's like a very tiny amount. And then I just basically took a difference between this one that I'm putting on and the other arm from the other side, and I just measured here and made sure that the one on the old one is the same as this one. Now onto the rear calipers, which needed a little bit of work before I began working on them. I first started by cleaning them up and removing any loose rust so that way the paint could stick on good. I then moved on to painting them with the Rust Olin paint and painting them silver. And meanwhile it dried, I went ahead and started removing my old setup, starting first with the calipers. Then I removed the nuts holding the bottom ball joint, upper ball joint, which needed some persuasion, and then the axle, which also needed some persuasion. And just with a little bit of hammering, all I had to do was lift up the spindle and then just slide out the axle. And to get my new assembled spindle on, all I had to do was do everything again but in reverse. Starting first by setting it on the ball joint. Then connecting the outer tie rod and the upper control arm as well. I then made sure to torque down all the parts before moving on to installing the new rotor and the caliper bracket. And I screwed up a little bit. My hard work in painting did not pay off because, as you can see, it shows now the black paint under the silver. And the reason is because I try to be extra clean, and so I sprayed brake clean on it, and then I wiped it, and then the silver paint came off. At least the other side ain't like that, am I right? But guess what I did this time? This time, I tried mounting up the calipers that I currently have on the car, since the front seals I don't have yet, and they're arriving hopefully tomorrow. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the rear. But I tried fitting on the original stuff, and clearly this rotor is way bigger than the original stuff that I had. And in the process of doing that, I tried shaving off the little clips, and even with doing that, it still kind of like scratched the rotor, but not enough to like for my nail to catch on it. It just kind of looks a little ugly, not as clean as, you know. Anyways, now to start disassembling the rear, starting first with the parking brake cable. Really, the only thing that's stopping me from finishing the front is just that I don't have the rebuild kit, because Acura Parts Warehouse was like, hey, you can order this part. And so I ordered it, and then like 10 hours later, they canceled it. And since I had so many things on order, I thought that was a shipping email. Now with the other side basically bolted on, but not tightened down yet, I'm gonna go ahead and start taking apart the other side, which starting the same way, taking off the e-brake, and then just moving my way from the front to the back. I removed it in the order of the tow arm, trailing arm bushing, brake line, bottom control arm, and then the upper control arm. And since I was doing this solo, I used a jack to support it, which somewhat did help from it crashing down on me. Then with some assistance, we mounted the Integra arm, and I began torquing down everything to spec. The next day, I began to rebuild the calipers with new seals and pistons. However, these parts aren't from Honda since most parts are discontinued, and as a result, I ended up having to actually do this twice for the front caliper. I started with the rear first by disassembling everything, including the parking brake. I then reassembled everything back into the new caliper. This included a base, a spring, a washer, and a circlip to hold it all in. I also replaced the O-rings and seals that sat on parts inside the caliper bore and re-greased any components that needed it. And thanks to my local Subaru dealership, I was able to get some free grease, which allowed me to complete the rear in a day. Thank you, Subaru. And now the rear is completed. Time to move on to the front, which to get the piston out, you have to use compressed air. And in comparison to the rear, the front is really simple. It just contains this one seal which presses in. Then the piston and the dust boot can just slide in using some brake fluid. Now onto the final piece of the puzzle, which is the slide pins. I'm gonna go ahead and grease them up and slide them in, and then go ahead and put on my pads as well. I don't know why that does it to me, bro.
Oh shit, here we go again.
So this is supposed to be my track day, but as you can see, my car is still in the air and not put back together. And you might be wondering why. Why is it not put back together? Well, it's all because of this fella right here. That right there is my front caliper, and it's all taken apart again because, come to find out, the piston that I ordered from Rock Auto was not listed as being a Type R piston. And so I ordered it thinking it was a normal Integra one. And well, as you can see, here's the difference. So as I was trying to slide the caliper over the freaking brake pads, it wouldn't go over, and I was like, why isn't it going over? So I tried pressing it in as hard as I could, and it just wouldn't go on. I even thought about sanding the brake pads at one point, which apparently some people do that online, I don't know why. And I didn't do that because I was like, these brake pads were too expensive, so I'm not gonna do that. And then I was like, what if the piston is wrong? And well, the piston was wrong. So anyways, now it's time to just put it all back together like how we did before. Now with it put on back together, it's time to just slide on the caliper and hopefully it should fit on just right. And as you can see, it went on smoothly compared to before. I went ahead and already buttoned up the lines and attached them. Now I just have to do it on the passenger side, so that way we can move on to the rear. I'm gonna go ahead and apply some red and tacky grease onto the spline before attaching the hub. Also, don't forget this little piece right here, which just helps with lining it up. Now to put on the rear rotor. Bro, I finally got the new rotors in. This time they're correctly ordered by me, and they're from Brembo this time as well. There are 4 bolt holes instead of the 5, which I accidentally got last time. So now it's only a matter of putting them on. And to start off on the rear, I'm gonna go ahead and install the EP3 bracket over the EP3 rotor. This should just bolt on directly, mostly thanks to the bracket. And then after that, all I have to do is install the clips and new pins with grease. And if you're doing this at home, just take note that pin B is smooth and will always be at the top, while pin A is not smooth and will always be on the bottom. And with it all finished up, that just means it's time to grease the clips and put on the pads and the caliper. I also got new lines from Chase Bays, so I'm gonna be replacing these old ones. These new ones are from 99 to 2000, a Civic SI, which should be a little shorter than the Integra ones, because the Integra ones should work, but I think the SI ones will just fit the chassis a little better. With the rear calipers all put on, now it's time to attach our e-brake cable. I'm gonna start from the outside and then work my way to the inside, because I think it'll be easier attaching the little grommet at the end. It's time to move on to something that I wasn't planning on doing originally, which is upgrading the brake lines. Originally I wasn't going to, mostly because of the time constraint, but since I have so much time now, as in I didn't make it to the track day, I decided to order some stainless steel brake lines from Russell, which these are for 96 to 2000 Honda Civic EX, which is, if you remember correctly, matches are, what the fuck? Oh, what's up? Alright, I forgot where I left off. If you remember correctly, we used EX spindles to fit on the Integra brakes, which means that we have to use different brake lines as well. So hopefully the EX ones fit, because what I noticed, what the hell? There's a cat up there now. What I noticed when trying to use the Integra brake lines is that they're too long. The only option really is to use these bad boys. So I'm gonna go ahead and install these real quick. That's the brake line off. And with this side all done, it's time to do the same on the other side and then move on to the rear. And to finish up our brake setup, I'm gonna go ahead and install this 40/40 proportioning valve from Honda, which should help with our rear not locking up before our front. Since this is positioned all the way in the rear, I'm gonna try and remove the airbox to hopefully get enough room to fit on a wrench. Once I removed half the airbox, it was easy to just get the lines off and then just the two 10mm bolts. And with that, I just put on the new one and reattach the lines and the bolts, and all I have left to do is to put on the airbox. On to the final piece, which is bleeding the brakes. I got my dad to help me, where he just pumps it 3 to 4 times and then holds it on the last pump. Then I just crack open the line and wait until it comes out without any bubbles. And I continued for every side, starting first with the rear right, then rear left, front right, and then front left. No matter the car, I always just work from the farthest side from the master cylinder. And with the system finally bled, this Honda Civic is now an official disc brake setup car. And to recap, I have Integra calipers, EP3 rotors on the back, EX rotors on the front for a bigger surface, and then stainless steel lines to put it all together. And get it from my buddy over here. The pedal feels pretty freaking good. But it's not over yet. We still got more parts to put on. Let me show you guys. So you might have been wondering, what the freak took me so long on posting a video? Most of it was just literally waiting on parts to arrive, and well, now I got all the parts. This car would be on the ground, but I ended up just balling out a little bit, and also, I got extremely freaking lucky. I don't know about extremely, but I got a couple extra goodies. For the next video, I'm planning on doing more suspension parts, since as you can see, we only did the front hone ball joint, and on the rear we did the spoon trailing arm bushing. And we were supposed to do the toe arm one, but come to find out it actually didn't fit on right, and the bushing would slide out a little bit. But as a result of buying these, they ended up actually sending me the wrong ones at first. And in the end, I ended up with this little goodie right here, which will help with adjusting the toe whenever we take it to get it in alignment. And then finally for the front, I got this compliance bushing, which is also a spherical one, but it actually has a bit of an upgrade, because this one I should be able to run on the street, mostly because if I remember correctly, it's like lined with something, so that way no dirt and crap gets in it. But anyways, this is the finale of this video. As you can see, next video I already kind of got planned out of what I gotta do, but I also have more things to come, mostly involving some aero I bought for the car and a custom DIY splitter I'm gonna be making out of wood, which I'll teach you guys how to make as well. Anyways, thank you all for watching. As always, I appreciate y'all sticking around, and if you made it this far, don't forget to subscribe and put on your post notifications, and also give this video a like. It really helps the channel grow. And also, my favorite thing in my opinion is comments, so leave a comment below with any questions, concerns, or feedback, or whatever you got to say. And I apologize for how long I took on this video, but there just was a lot of problems that came with it. But I guess you live and you learn, and also just missing the track day after like working on it every afternoon and evening kind of bummed me out not making it. So I'm about to be back on my grind again. Just know that I'm never just done posting, and if I am, I would obviously say something, because it's kind of weird. I always would make me sad when like a YouTuber would just disappear, because you would always wonder what happened to them. Although I'm not technically, I don't consider myself a YouTuber yet. I'm just kind of a dude posting videos. Anyways, thank you all. As always, have yourselves a good one. Have yourselves a beautiful evening, afternoon, or whatever you got going on. Thank y'all. Peace out to the next one.